Welcome back to the workshop. In today's video, we're going to talk about how we can do an alternative to bag tags. So let's say you don't like the bag tags. Harkening back to that whole seam ripping discussion where there were some people who felt that bag tags were narcissistic, which is really weird, but you know, you do you, boo. At the end of the day, everybody has to make their own choices for their own business and how they want to represent their brand. So that conversation aside, there's alternatives, something that your purchaser, your customer, whatever, can remove. So why not a charm? Why not have a charm with your company's name on it? Your logo, your special character or whatever, like my potato cat. Something like that that's engraved onto wood and then hung on with like this bead chain thing, you know, like the dog tag chains. I don't even know like what the proper name for this is, but this stuff is awesome. Anyway, rambling. You can basically make those. You don't have to use tags. You don't even have to do something with your company name on it if you don't want to. You could make charms out of the wood and other nefarious materials such as leather. Ooh, scary. Anyway, we're gonna hop right into that project and I'm gonna walk you through how to do it step by step. Hopefully this creates a good alternative for people who just aren't a fan of tags or want to do something else and add a little bit of flair to their bags. I also want to take a moment before we dive into the project to thank this video's sponsor, Creality. They provided me with the Falcon2 22W Diode laser with the honeycomb, the aluminum protection. It's got the air assist, and I do have an enclosure, but the enclosure makes this thing not so fun when we have the project going and you want to see it happen. So I'm going to leave the enclosure off just for the duration of this video. It is important to note, however, that typically when you purchase a diode laser like this, you can get it in a bundle. The bundle that I was given was specifically for influencers, and so the rotary, the honeycomb, and the air assist, typically you have to purchase, you know, piecemeal as needed. And that's largely because a lot of people have several lasers. And sometimes, unless you're gonna be cutting something, you don't really need the honeycomb bed. Now, for today's project, we do need the honeycomb bed and we need the protector underneath it, which is a sheet of aluminum that I totally can't pull out of there right now. But we do that to protect the super duper expensive Husky that I have this thing sitting on. All right, let's take a look at this bad boy. Yeah, look at it. It's fancy. Okay, I didn't really have to spend much time putting it together. 10 minutes, I opened the box and I put it together and that was it. Because the main chassis here, the frame, was already assembled. The only thing I had to do was plug in the air assist into the side. I just slid the laser into place and locked it using the screws here. And then I added the air assist cable to the top. This is just the tube, so the air assist can deliver the air down through the laser head so that it keeps all that soot and smoke off of your lens. One of the things that I would have liked to have seen here is an LCD panel, but unless you're going to be driving, you know, your design straight from the machine, then it's kind of moot. I tend to use my laptop. I have a lightning cable that is right here on the side that is plugged directly into my laptop over here. And I'm just driving it straight up from the laptop using Lightburn. A quick run through of safety features. It comes equipped with an emergency stop button. So if you think that something bad is going to happen, like the whole house is going to set itself on fire, you press this button and it's going to full stop. It does come on optional risers. You can see the legs here. I went ahead and I put them in there because I do have the rotary that they sent with it. But as far as safety goes, because you're probably thinking, well, this, you know, what if this fell off the table? What if something knocked it? It does have tilt detection inside, and it will also emergency stop if it detects that it is not level and going to tip off of a table. And it wouldn't be a full video without explaining to you what the triple monitoring system is. It's kind of another safety feature for you. So you have one to monitor your airflow, so you know if you are high, low, if you could use a bit more. You have fire detection, which is extremely important as a safety feature. I briefly touched on that earlier. But the new thing, or at least new to me, that I have not seen in any machine yet is lens detection. So this is monitoring the health of your lens. This lets you know if your lens has gotten too dirty, if it potentially broke, or if it's in like a very bad damaged situation where you potentially couldn't use the laser. One of the things people don't realize when they go into laser engraving and laser cutting is that the lens is technically considered a disposable part, but you need to monitor the health of that lens. You need to do regular maintenance and cleanings to ensure that that lens doesn't get damaged or dirty, because if it does, it weakens the beam or it can divert the beam. All right, I think we're ready to power this thing on. I am going to warn you, it's a little loud because of the air compressor that's used for the air assist. So I didn't have that in the previous video with a different laser, but just so you know, it's like not required, but it is preferable to have air assist. So that's like a different topic for a different video, but basically what you need the air assist for is to keep soot and dust off of your lens, because it will wreck a lens in a heartbeat if any of that dust and soot kicks up and goes right back up into the laser head. They're somewhat protected, but not 100%. So we're gonna power this on, and it goes through an introduction phase where it gets itself booted up, and now the air assist is going, and I feel like I have to yell. I'm sorry for the yelling. So over here on the side is a little dial, and you can adjust that down to a bare minimum. Actually, if I take you right down here, it doesn't really help if I just show from the opposite side of me adjusting what I need for the airflow. So basically, when I set up the air assist, all I had to do was plug it in here. The machine powers the air assist. And if you look right back here, that's where I have it sitting, right there. That little guy there. And if I want to manually adjust any of the air assist settings, it's just like a volume dial. So I can move it down manually, or I can crank it up manually in order to decrease or increase the airflow. So if it's engraving something and I feel the airflow is a bit too much, I can manually dial it down if I want. And that will help keep the soot in place and from blasting all over the work that I've done. You want it on a lower setting if you're engraving. Once you switch to cutting, you need to crank it up. So usually when you engrave, you're not going to use a whole lot of air assist, and then with cutting, you're going to go full hog. So the kicker is that I have to do that manually and detect when I'm going to do the engraving, or the cutting, or I do the engraving and then I pause and send another command up from the computer to drive the cutting, and then I can crank it up. So it is manual, it's not automatic. Nothing in Lightburn is going to toggle the air assist on or off. The other thing that I'm going to point out is that if you are like me and you're not using an enclosure with a vent tube pumping air out a dryer vent or window, you need to open up your garage door. You need to open it wide and let that crap breathe right on out this way, because oftentimes people don't realize that working with these materials, when they're burning, they can actually have some toxic fumes to them. So it's a safety thing. Let your air flow, which I need airflow because it's hot as hell in here. So when I did an initial test with this, what I noticed straight out of the gate was that the settings were basically the same as what I used for the other diode laser. You would think that 22 watts would be a lot more power, you know, it feels like, well, that's more than double what the 10 watt was, but really it's more of a scaler. In all of my early testing, just to get this all settled before I could do a video for you guys, was just showed that all of those previous settings worked just fine for me. So this is the design for the tag. It's basically just like this little charm that I made a 6mm diameter hole for, and that's where the bead is, I guess, like what the bead necklace stuff is gonna go through. And the red line is for cut. The green is actually a score that I do after I do any kind of engraving on wood. I don't necessarily do this with acrylic or anything else, but definitely with wood and MDF. What I will do is after I engrave, I basically go back over all of the edges with a very light score line, and it kind of helps sharpen everything up. Not necessary as much on a diode laser as it would be with a CO2 laser, purely because of how the diode lasers work, but you know, it's all good. Now, as I said before, you can drive this straight from Lightburn, which is a huge boon. Some, you know, if you know of Glowforges, they have their own proprietary software that's web-driven. You have to always be online and connected to the internet, and you can't use powerful applications such as this one, which is Lightburn. And that's just something I can't get behind. I don't like to tie myself to first-party applications and basically turn a $9,000 machine into a brick if you can't use it anymore. That would really suck. But all I do with this one is, now that I have this all set up, I can do frame, and it will go around the design, and then I can place the wood exactly where I need it to go. Now that we're ready to go, we're gonna do a frame command and go ahead and let the laser kind of figure out where it is. And you don't have to place it like this. I placed it in the middle so it'll be easier for me to record this for everybody so you can actually see the laser do a thing. But now that I know about where it's gonna go, I can go ahead and slide my material in here and get that going. I'm trying to, it's the urge to not waste material that's getting me real bad right now. I'm trying so hard. So I have this sitting down, and you see it's a little loosey-goosey. Let me zoom in so you can see that a little better. Yeah, so you can see, like, right here, it's kind of like bouncing around. That's actually really important. So the big thing that you need to know about wood is it will bend out of shape. This is some scrap wood that I have had in here for some months now. So it's kind of bent. It's not going to lay down flat. That actually really messes up your focus, and because you'll measure here, but then it's a little higher up here, so it just isn't going to engrave evenly. So that's where I take some little spokes that I had 3D printed. Of course, I'm going to frame this one more time before I put these down because it'll lock it in place. So let's just make sure we're good. Okay, so we're definitely not good, so I need to move that around. The laser heads toward the back. And there are guides on the side over here to kind of let you know, okay, well, this is the very bottom of the material. I'm gonna try not to be super OCD about this and just get her done. So now we're gonna let it glide over and frame again. There we go, there we go. Okay, so now that I've framed it again, now I can make sure that these pegs are not gonna get smacked. This is something my husband 3D printed for me, and they're just little honeycomb spokes. Pretty common for people to grab and to use, but they hold the material down flat-ish. I might actually have to use masking tape. I don't think his are reaching all the way through like they should. So sometimes I will just take some masking tape and put that down to hold it in place. Plus, if you goof up, then the masking tape can get cut through just fine, and it does hold it. If you see now, it's not doing the bobbing thing it was doing. It's not bobbing for apples, so we'll take that one away because we're not going to use it. The next step is going to be focus. Always focus. Even if you think you have this thing in focus, you really don't. Even if it's the exact same material, it's not in focus. I never trust it. I always go right up under. So this is the tool that they gave, and it's a little confusing. I'm not gonna lie. This is, at least for me, it seems a little weird, but it actually has information on it to say engraving, cutting thickness of basswood 1 to 3 millimeters, which this is. cutting thickness for 4 to 6 millimeters, et cetera, et cetera. I'm pretty much thinking I'm just gonna go with this top one. That looks about right. And all you do is you stick it up under here on top of the material and directly under the laser apparatus, and you're gonna just loosey-goosey, very lightly, just like a quarter turn, and that makes the laser head just nice enough to like shift a bit but not fall off of the thing. And you're gonna let it drop until it's on that piece down there for the focusing, and tighten, and then just gently pull that out without shifting any of your materials. That's how you focus. That's really easy. There's no guesswork to it really. It's, you know, you basically put the material down, put this underneath the laser head, drop it to adjust, tighten back into place. Bob's your uncle. Now, before I get started, which I think I've said like 5 times now, I'm gonna put on the supplied safety glasses. Do not stare at the laser while it's operating. I mean, this doesn't matter to you. You're gonna be watching this in a recording. However, I am not going to be looking at it. I'm going to turn my back and hope I don't turn into a pillar of salt. Anyway, it is time to pew pew. I'm gonna hit go on this thing. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna record this. You might not get a whole lot out of it because of all of the protective coverings on this, but we're gonna try. Enjoy. Okay, we're good. We're good, right? Cool, it's done. It's done doing its thing. I can take off the safety glasses. Anywho, that was fun. Let's take a look here at what we've got. I always come in here, and this is another reason why I like to secure with tape and pegs and such. It's because if it doesn't cut, then I always like to go in and be like, if it's wiggling, we're good. So we're good because it's wiggling. See how it's definitely free. And I'm one of those people who will be super stubborn and try to pick it out of there for an hour without lifting the material, but we're just gonna lift it for your sake and show you what it looks like. Now this is a wood, this is basswood, and this is a wood that I do like to engrave darkly as best I can because it really brings out that color. And you'll see that because I had the air assist turned on very lightly, the soot that was formed inside the lettering did not blow out and spread out all over the place, but we have a tiny bit around in here, and I'm gonna show you how to clean that up real quick. So if you were gonna stain this, I would actually say like you don't need to worry about any of that because the stain will end up kind of washing that away. If you just want to leave it like this, kind of raw, that's fine too. All you need to do is take a baby wipe. I just take a baby wipe. You can also just use water. I mean, you know, I just use a baby wipe because it's easy and I don't have a sink in here. But you just take this baby wipe and you go around the lettering and wipe it down. And that will remove the soot from all around there. And I mean, you can go as hard as you want on that one. I tend to go around the edges of these things too because it does burn through the edges. I mean, that's how it cuts. But that's about it. And now, I mean, if you wanted to paint it, let it dry, obviously, because you don't want to paint on wet wood or try to polyurethane this kind of wood. Now, if this is just something that you expect somebody to take off and throw away, like let's think the LA Gear charms that were on LA Gear shoes back in the 90s. Thank you so much for that memory. If it's like that, then I probably wouldn't worry about it. But if this is a bag charm that you intend to sell and have last for a while, I would actually consider using different materials and different techniques. And we're gonna walk through that, but just so I can give you an idea, and this being the alternative to a bag tag, you can just buy these little chains, pre-cut and ready to go, right off of Amazon. And you just loop this around like the zipper pull or the handles of the bag or something, anything, so it's hanging, but then it's an option for your customer to take it off. So if you are in a market that's not as friendly toward handmade, you know, bag labels and stuff like that, then this is a really good alternative. So let's go through some alternatives, right? So let's say you don't want to use 1/8 inch basswood because this stuff is not terribly sturdy. This is not something that I would use if I intended for the bag charm to actually last more than a couple of bag uses. This is great though if it's just that little throwaway thing, like I said. If you were actually going to do something that you wanted to last, you're going to want to sand it, stain it, polyurethane it, the works. You're also going to want to use thicker wood. So in that case, that's where I'm going to pop down and I'm going to see if I can grab like just a little bit. There we go. So I've got a little bit of scrap wood here that is 1/4 inch thick, 6 millimeters-ish for the people who don't like freedom units. And I'm going to put that in there and I'm going to make the same bag tag, but then we're going to make it look pretty. It's pretty. It's pretty. It looks good, right? I thought it looked good. So anyway, let's try that again, but now with thicker wood. Thick. Okay, the material I'm going to be using is thicker. It's 3 millimeters thicker. So we're going to manually push back that y-axis and we're going to move the laser head over because we're going to need to adjust this. This is basically set for some material that's a lot thinner. So we're going to slide our material in here, and this is part of the reason why I really like diode lasers is I feel like I can really get in there. So we're going to push this back, and I will adjust where I'm going to put the laser and the design in a bit. Not something I'm really worried about right now. Since this material is thicker, though, my pegs, little peg trick is totally going to work, which is great. So now we're going to slide this over just so we're over the material and we can actually focus it better. And I get back in my drawer here and I'm going to grab my helpful little focus tool. Oh, it's not going to, well, that's funny. The camera won't focus, but that's good. It's fine. This is fine. We're going to just unscrew those thumb screws. We're going to just lift it up a bit. Make sure it's in there real good. You don't need to like slam it down, but I do put my fingers on it just to stabilize it a little. And then slide that out, and now it should be in focus. And what we're going to do now is get that file going and ready to do this a second time. One thing to note though, since we're going to make this one pretty, is this actually has masking tape over it. You can buy 12-inch wide masking tape, otherwise known as like transfer tape, to use on these, and it fits great on these project panels that I get that are 12 inches tall, 19 inches wide. They're perfect for these kinds of projects and I love it. And that masking tape will ensure that I don't have to wipe anything away at the end. Cool, second round finished. Wiggle test, very wiggly. Woo-hoo-hoo. Okay, so let's see, can I do it? Can I do it? Ah, no. All right, I'm gonna pull this out of here manually, forsooth. We'll just get it out of there. Ah, ooh, look at that smoke coming up. Look at that, that's great. Fantastic. And all the little trash pieces, you just chuck those in the trash can. But, boop, there you go. Now this one is gonna be 1/4 inch thick. Oh my God, it's smoking, that's awesome. Anyway, it's the little things that give me joy in life. So now we have one that's 1/4 inch thick, was masked. Let's make it pretty. Alrighty, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab one of my brushes. These are basically junk brushes. This is not something that I would do for anything fantastical. And since I've masked it, and it's kind of hard to tell because the wood is light itself as well, but there is this masking tape that's over it. So while that's on there, and especially if you squeegeed it into place, so I'll use something like this to kind of scrape it down when I'm placing that masking tape. As long as you have that on there nice and tight, you can basically come in here and paint right over it and it's not going to seep through, which is really important. But you also don't want to kind of hyper saturate it. Actually, I'm going to choose a slightly smaller brush like this so I can get into all of those little grooves. And this, by the way, is why all of my fingers have been stained in recent videos and streams. It's because I've been doing this on the side. It's fantastic, isn't it? So I'm just gonna wash my hands real quick because I'll end up touching my computer and hate myself later. Anyway, I'm gonna take a little bit of this violet paint and I'm just gonna like dab it in there. One of the things about plywood like this is it's very porous. So you might have to do a couple of layers on it in order to get the paint in there. But you want to do this before you do anything else. The other thing that you can do if you'd rather is you can use Posca pens, which are really neat, and I feel like I'm the last person on the planet to know that those things exist, but those are paint pens, and they're fantastic for like painting in small details and designs. So I'm just going to let that sit there, and what you don't want to do is immediately pull that up. You want it to dry, because if you do it while it's wet, then it's going to smear. So just let it sit, let it dry, be patient. It looks like a purple blob of absolute nothing to you right now, but it's going to be awesome when I can peel that paper away. So we're just going to chill and let that dry and look at it in a second. I've let it dry. It's kind of magical how you didn't have to sit there and wait for it like me. So I just use my fingernails to peel this up, which again is why I have such dirty nails when I stream now. But I just gently pull this off. It's just as annoying as weeding Cricut stuff, you know? Just as annoying. So we're just gonna peel that off of there. And when you have this stuff in the middle right there, that's when you wanna get a little safe with it. I do still just scrape it like that. And oh, it looked like it didn't see. That's why you wait for it to dry completely. Okay, hold on. Oh, let me see if I can salvage this. But we're just gonna take this and peel it off with an actual Cricut tool. My bad. But anyway, so that's what it looks like when you fill it up with a little bit of paint and give it a little bit of pizzazz. The other thing that's really cool to use is you can use unicorn spit. So this is some really good stuff. It is a little bit on the pricey side, but you can use unicorn spit to pre-stain the wood and then mask it and then paint. So if I had wanted to, I could have painted this nice magenta color and stained the wood, and you can still see a lot of the wood grain. Cover it with the masking tape, do all of the engraving and cutting, and then come back out and basically paint in the lettering. So that would have been a nice dynamic. There's a ton of things that you can do with this, but again, it's pretty expensive. So an alternative to that is to take baby wipes and regular old acrylic paint. Just regular acrylic paint. Take a little bit of the acrylic paint and put it on the baby wipe. I'll show you on the other side of this. Actually, let's get a fun paint. I was like, preferably one I've opened, but that's all right. I'm here for it. I'll just use what's on the top here so I don't waste too much, but you don't need to take a lot. Just take a tiny, tiny bit like that on the baby wipe, and you wipe it in, and because of the dampness of the wipe, it basically stains the wood. So you still see the wood grain, but now you have the paint in there. This actually is a metallic paint, so go me for using something that's reflecting like mad into the camera. But it's pretty nice. Now, once you're done with that, of course, we're gonna let that dry. But when you're done, you can put on the charm and call it a day. But one of the things that I like to do is to polyurethane. And by polyurethane, I basically mean you need to seal this up. And that's so that none of the elements get in, because again, like this is exposed wood on the side here, and since it is not solid wood, it's plywood, then it can get moisture and it can get bad over time. So there's a couple of things that you can use. I recommend the Rust-Oleum clear enamel. You can get this at any hardware store. And then there's also, and you don't have to get this, but I do love to get gloss polyurethane oil-based. If you get water-based, it takes a few coats. But after you've done all of this, if you put a few coats, camera, if you put like a coat of this on there, use like 2,000 to 3,000 grit sandpaper and very lightly buff it and do one more coat and then buff that. This will be super shiny and nice. And I take it outside to spray it down because I don't want any of those fumes floating in the garage. And see, the back is already, like I wasted no time with that. So the back is already basically dry, as is the front, especially the part where I scraped my thumb over, but that's all good. So But bear in mind that with either of these, it will slightly darken the wood, but not so much that it's gonna kind of mess up what you're going for. So you might be asking, well, what if I don't want to use wood? What if I want to use acrylic? So the thing about diode lasers is that because of the wavelength and the type of laser that it is when it produces the beam, it's not going to go through all materials, specifically translucent materials such as clear acrylic, semi-clear acrylic, frosted acrylic, and glitter acrylic. These are things everybody would love to work with, but of course, if you want to cut through something like that, you're going to need a CO2 or a fiber laser. But in this instance, it can actually cut through some solid acrylics. I have, for example, a sheet of yellow acrylic here that we're going to do a test on. But in general, even though you can do it, I wouldn't go hog wild purchasing acrylic materials unless you've researched all of them and know that your laser can actually touch it. Because even though it can engrave, for example, it could engrave my tag just fine on a purple acrylic, it still couldn't cut through it. I tried to cut through it 5 passes at 100% power, and all it did was melt it. So again, that's more of a wavelength issue and less of a problem with, with the acrylic and laser and everything. It's like right tool for the right job. Anyway, let's make one out of yellow acrylic. Righto, so it finished, and I mean, yellow's not my #1 choice of an acrylic that I would want to work with, so again, that might have some kind of say in what it is you want to do. But again, like with this one, you can actually fill this in as well and make it pop. So if you want to use yellow, go for it. Basically anything that's got a blue tone to it is probably not going to be able to cut through. But if you are going to paint these things, so let's say I wanted to do that, I actually suggest getting enamel paint. This is meant for glasses and plastics. If you use a regular acrylic, it's just going to crack and peel away from the plastic, because that's really all acrylic is at the end of the day. But you see, you can do it, but you're still fairly limited on the kinds of acrylic and the colors that you can get, which makes it a lot less exciting. So let's say you don't want to fuss around with the acrylic. It's too much of a hassle to figure out what will work. Black and yellow acrylic are absolutely going to work as long as they're solid. I have no problem cutting those or engraving those whatsoever with beautiful results. It's just like, I don't know, I felt a little limited. The cool thing about this laser though, is that since it's 22 watts and not just a little, 10-watt diode beginner laser, it can actually mark stainless steel and with color. That's right, color. Thank you, science, for giving us wavelengths that come forth from this tiny magical box of laserdom. So yeah, basically you can pew different variances on power and speeds to make different colors show up. It's actually pretty cool. And what we're gonna do is a material test, just basically is a table that goes speed and power percentages to figure out what combination will produce what color for us. Now, stainless steel marking metals like this is something that is unique to the diode laser or a fiber laser. Fiber lasers can actually do a heckadoodle of a lot more, and they're very powerful. They can cut. This will mark it, it's not gonna cut it. But if you wanted to, you could buy pre-made dog tags or stamp plates, all of the little bits that you would use for jewelry, for example, and you can mark those now too. So if you didn't want to do wood and you didn't want to fuss around with just, a very limited selection of acrylics that you can work with, you can go with stainless steel. Okay, that's cool. Let's take a closer look. Okay, so for me, coming from a CO2 laser and not having the ability to basically do anything with metals because it just doesn't do a thing. It's kind of like with diodes, if you were to put clear acrylic on it, it won't even touch it. Like, it'll burn off the paper. the paper covering that's supposed to protect it, but it won't do anything else. So to go from that to coming in here and seeing that I have etched metal, and not only have I etched metal, but I have actually put in color, and now I know what those colors are. And this is like basically not doing anything up here, but you can see how the hues go from like a nice strong orange, purple, blue, and there's some reds in here. So I definitely am going to want to do some more tests that take this darker and darker and see, you know, what I'm gonna get as far as the colors go to dial this in a bit more. But that's really flippin' neat. So yeah, let's go over this and what I would do with it. I think the question more accurately could be posed as, what would I not do with something like this? Because for some of us, like if you were just gonna do the disposable charm option to get around tags, or even just to have like a little tchotchke that's hanging off of the bag when you go to sell it, say you want to do your price tags like this, that's cute. Kinda, I mean kinda, it's a bit much for a price tag, but let's say you expect this to be something disposable. Sure, all right, let's toss that 1/8 of an inch wood over there. But what if you wanted to do something different? And it doesn't even have to be bag related. It can be keychains, it can be necklaces, charms, something like that. Like, it doesn't have to be bag related. I try to relate things back to bag making and to sewing because ultimately that's what I do, and that's what a lot of you have subscribed or followed for. But with this, you can just take a quick glance for stainless steel blanks for laser engraving on Amazon and pull up a plethora of things. Of course, always look at the reviews, make sure you get something good. The one thing to avoid is getting any kind of stainless steel product that has been coated, because if it's coated, it probably won't do much to it. I at least know that, like with my CO2 lasers that are off cam over here, if I try to put marking spray on stainless steel or aluminum and try to mark it, and the metal has actually been treated with some kind of coating, it won't do anything to it. It'll just wipe right off of it. But I don't know how it would work with a diode, actually. That might be something that I need to check on. But think, you could do dog tags. Well, you could do cute custom dog tags, and not only that, but you could choose colors. You can put different designs on them, and you could really spruce things up. This is a great way to make little charms on zipper pulls too. If you want to have your own zipper pulls, but you don't want to go through all of the hassle of ordering something straight up from China or another vendor or supplier somewhere else in the world. But hey, thank you so much for tuning in. If you've made it this far, please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. All of those things that YouTubers try to guilt you into doing, but nobody ever does. Also, down below in the description, I have more information on the Creality Falcon2 22W. It also comes in 10W and 40W flavors if you so choose. Enjoy, and thank you so much. Don't ever hesitate to reach out with questions.